Today on the Pro-Life Podcast, 2 lives almost discarded by loved ones, saved at the last second. We need to talk about this. Let's get started. Happy Thursday, Pro-Life family. Welcome to the table. Grab your coffee. Hey, friends.
Hi.
Hello.
Welcome back.
Yeah.
It's been a fun time. Lots of news.
A little bit has happened since we last
just
met.
a few things. So if we can, we'll introduce ourselves real quickly.
Kim Schwartz, Director of Media and Communication.
Billy Barton, Director of Development Operations.
Rick Klingerman, IT Director and host here? I don't know. Well, we're all kind of, I don't know, whatever.
We just go here.
I just sit in this chair and they stick articles in front of me and we have to talk about them. And man, oh man. So Kamala Harris is the new nominee,
Yeah.
theoretically,
Presumably.
I guess. Presumably. I think that's what's happened. And we really can't not talk about this because this is what everybody's talking about.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, there's so many great things she's said to talk about.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I would like to share some of our favorites. Would anyone like to go first?
Yeah.
Bailey's on a roll.
Bailey's
I
pretty
want
excited
you-
about this.
Yes.
Listen, I start every morning, I look myself in the mirror, and I say a Kamala Harris quote. I'm just kidding.
Oh my gosh.
And then I
I'm
laugh
just
and
kidding.
go back to what I was doing.
True. LOL.
It is time for us to do what we have been doing,
Mm-hmm.
and that time is every day.
True.
Time. Well,
Preach.
That is the potential future president of the United States.
Yes, man.
speaking of time and Kamala Harris, the significance of the passage of time, right? Right?
Mm-hmm.
The significance of the passage of time. So when you think about it, there's great significance to the passage of time.
Ugh.
True. Preach. There is. There's significance
It will be significant.
to the passage of time.
Yep.
Yeah. That's almost as great as her love for yellow school buses. Am I right?
Oh my gosh.
Man, who doesn't love a yellow school bus? That's my favorite Kamala Harris quote. It's like just rich.
Yeah,
So
so relatable.
Yeah. Oh my god.
You gotta laugh. Everything
And
that's
she's
what she
happening.
does.
Oh, yes.
That's
Boy.
I didn't even mean it like that.
yeah, it's funny and we laugh, but actually if she were elected it would be really, really, really bad.
Yes.
She has been ranked the farthest left-leaning candidate we may have ever had.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I mean, you go back in history and you can only theorize what some people might have said behind closed doors, but this one has put it all out on the internet for us to read, and everybody acts like this is normal.
But like her abortion positions are like very radical. Even whenever she was district attorney in California, it was like, I remember in 2016 with whenever David Daleiden put out those undercover videos exposing Planned Parenthood selling baby body parts. And that was really the first time I'd ever heard of Kamala Harris being kind of
And it's
new
the first
on
time
scene.
anybody'd heard of Kamala Harris,
And
really, if you weren't there. in
Goodness gracious. I remember just being stunned at like how aggressively she was going after him. And it's really stunning. I don't think the left claims to be pro free speech anymore. Very, very like opposite of like, no, hate speech is horrible. But at the time, all right, 2015, they were still like, you know what? Everybody has the right to free speech. And she was just like not about it. She was already like so far left at that time where even the ACLU was kind of condemning some of the pro-abortion efforts in response to those undercover videos because they were like introducing legislation to like prohibit like undercover journalism and stuff like that. And even the ACLU was like, guys, that's really bad for free speech. Like y'all shouldn't do that. But Kamala Harris was like all on board with Planned Parenthood and what they were doing. And so she's been a wreck for a long time and has only gotten worse.
Well, isn't she one of the few or only presidential candidates to speak at Planned Parenthood events?
So presidential candidates have spoken at Planned Parenthood events. She's the only presidential or as vice president.
Sitting, that's right.
Yes,
Yeah.
she visited an abortion clinic and had like kind of like a campaign event, if you will, at an abortion clinic. which is so gruesome. Like,
yes, it was. I listened to it. It was really bad.
yeah, that's going to be something that I think in the future, whenever you look back on like the atrocities of human history and you think like, how could anybody have like supported this so staunchly? And you look at that and you're going to be like, that's one of the things that's just like jaw dropping of how rooted in this ideology people are and were. So that's what we're fighting against.
Yeah. And I know we can get in our echo chambers sometimes. And I just really encourage everyone to go and listen to what she's saying, not to like the masses, but to her crowd, what she's saying to them about abortion and reproductive rights. That is like a huge thing she's running on, and it should be really concerning for us pro-lifers because we are not seeing the same intensity on the other side of protecting the unborn. We are seeing the exact opposite. We are seeing people pull back on their pro-life positions, and we are seeing the left, we're seeing Kamala Harris double down on their positions. Can we all imagine how terrifying it would be if they won?
Yeah.
And we're over here becoming squishy about it?
Yeah. Definitely.
It's concerning.
Yeah. And even like up until I would say like the 2020 election, we could, I would say reliably know that even a Democrat president would sign a budget, for example, with the Hyde Amendment prohibiting taxpayer-funded abortions, at least like domestically. And like that is completely off the table now. Where like Biden was super against the Hyde Amendment recently and saying like we should spend taxpayer dollars on abortions here. Like why not?
You should not.
Yeah.
No.
And so if you thought Biden was bad on this issue, Kamala is like 1,000 times worse.
Yeah. Her very first speech since they made the announcement with Joe Biden, I believe it was her first speech, she said, let's restore Roe v. Wade. Let's restore it.
Lady, let's not.
I mean, that's just...
Yeah. And it has very deadly repercussions, not just for children in the womb, which, you know, they don't recognize the child in the womb as a living human being. But we've talked about on this podcast before, if you devalue life in the womb, you devalue life everywhere. And so that kind of mentality has led to very like heartbreaking stories of that we've seen in Texas recently, actually, of children being abandoned, mothers like not taking care of their children and seeing their children as disposable because that's what society tells them their children are. So next topic.
Yes, y'all might have heard about this, actually. It was all over the news. In Houston, there was a baby abandoned in a dumpster outside of an apartment complex, and it's still under investigation, so all the details haven't really been shared yet. But what is believed to have happened is a woman gave birth in a taco truck. Yes, you heard that correctly. And I guess abandoned the baby in the nearby dumpster and then fled the scene. And someone was walking by the dumpster, I want to say like the next day. I'm not totally sure though, and could hear the baby crying. And so they found the baby. They called the police, and they were able to thankfully rescue this baby. And I was telling Kim and Brent that it's kind of surreal seeing these stories play out because you see how our societal systems like work to protect this baby, go rescue the baby, and give this baby the best chance, give the baby a chance. Yeah. But in some states in America, if she would have aborted the baby a month prior to birth, there's no protection for this baby. How inconsistent is that? That we all come to the rescue and we all agree that this is horrific. But just a month ago, it wouldn't have been horrific?
Yeah.
Well, I'm concerned about some of the states that have, we can just leave it on the table and let the mom, whatever.
Yeah.
Would EMS been prohibited from helping this child?
Yeah. Whenever, do y'all remember, okay, tangent real quick, but I'm going to bring it back. Do y'all remember we were talking on a surrogacy episode where there was a woman who volunteered to be a surrogate and then it turns out that the child was going to have like an anomaly or something?
Yes.
She was in California. And like, because she was like under contract as a surrogate, the couple was trying to like force her to have an abortion. And she was like, no, I don't want that. Like, I want to give birth to this child. And basically like she was kind of forced to like leave the child to die on the table.
Yeah, with the DNR.
hospital. Yeah. because she couldn't do anything. She didn't have any rights to this child. And then the couple were like, we don't want this baby. It has an anomaly. And so it's like, okay, well, if she would have thrown the child in a dumpster, like, is that really any different?
Obviously, this mom didn't want this child, I guess. So I feel like, yeah, this would have been, in some states, California,
right?
Well,
it's your choice. It's like, at what point does your body, your choice, like, really, really, really fall apart? And I think it's pretty darn obvious. Like, the baby is born. Like, that's really, really obviously, like, not your body. And then, we can, like, draw that back to the moment of conception and say, like, this is another body inside of your body. This body has his own unique DNA. This body has fingers and toes and a heartbeat and all of these things. So this is very clearly, like, not your body. This is another person. But, like, who can defend, abandoning a child, whether that's, in an abortion or in a dumpster?
Yeah. And what you're going to hear the other side say is, you see what happened in Texas? This is why we need abortion. And to that, I just am astounded that would be granted, I haven't heard this response, but I've heard things like this when things like this happen, that's why we need women to be able to choose so these tragedies don't happen. And like I said before, it would have been a tragedy if they would have aborted. I mean, and why is there this disconnect?
Yeah. But, like, the miracle of the story is, like, this child is alive. Like, the child was rescued from the dumpster. And so even though the story began as a tragedy of, a parent abandoning her child in, like, the worst possible conditions, but, like, praise God, somebody came and helped that child and rescued that child. And I think that's, like, really the heart of the pro-life movement. The heart of the early church, too, of, like, this huge paradigm shift after Jesus came and taught us, like, value everybody, especially the most vulnerable. And so the early Christians were, like, saving children out of trash heaps. Because that was common then. It's common now. But this story didn't have to happen this way. We were talking about baby Moses laws, right? Like, we have them for a reason. The parents can take a child to a fire station or a hospital or a police station and surrender the child, like, no questions asked. Like, we get it, There's hard situations like that.
Yeah. Well, and we talked about this last week in the office, that, putting images and, like, pictures to our cause is so important because it spreads awareness. Right. This is a newborn baby with the umbilical cord still attached. And this is a baby that was just in the womb, and we are fighting for the rights of those babies. And I think for people to see the police officers swaddling this baby, which everyone can see, like, they're heroes, like, that is heroic. Like, it is heroic to protect them in the womb too.
Yes, true. Good
and
point.
I think it helps us, like, connect the dots a little bit.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, well, we got one more story we want to talk about. We need to take a real quick break. Some important information for you right here. Do you have a cell phone? Do you have pro-life values? Do you like saving money? Well, Patriot Mobile is America's only Christian conservative wireless provider, and they've partnered with Texas Right to Life. So if you'll go to patriotmobile.com/Texas Right to Life or call 972-PATRIOT, 972-PATRIOT, and use the checkout code TRTL, they'll give you a free month of service. So make the switch today, have your money support causes you believe in, and save and get a whole free month. Make the switch right now. What are you doing still watching this? Make the switch right now.
This just in. Democrat leaders convinced Biden he already stepped down yesterday. Meanwhile, the party whose abortion position is endorsed by North Korea, Harvey Weinstein, and the Church of Satan says we're on the right side of history. If you want to meet the guy behind hilarious headlines like these, come to our 27th annual Life Gala in Houston on September 28th, featuring CEO of the Babylon Bee, Seth Dillon. Supporting Texas Right to Life at the Life Gala is a great way to make an impact and give hope to moms and babies in need. Join us in Houston as we honor God for all that He's done this year. But seats are filling up fast, so make sure you click the link in our description to get your tickets today. We hope to see you on September 28th.
Welcome back, friends. I'm excited about seeing Seth Dillon. That's going to be a lot of fun. And we were discussing how the Babylon Bee has had some amazing information for us about Kamala Harris.
Oh, yeah. They have this really just super fascinating video about the 6-year-old that writes all her speeches. A really bright kid.
Yes, absolutely. You know, he just really likes highlighting, like, the community's children are for the community. They're the community's children.
The children of the community.
Yeah, obviously. So that 6-year-old is the hardest working 6-year-old.
Yeah, y'all gotta go find it. It's under the Babylon Bee, Seth Dillon's company.
They put some amazing content out.
They are amazing. Actual Harris quotes make me want to throw things.
Yeah.
Because she wants to lead the free world, you guys. Oh my gosh. Okay.
Moving on.
Moving on before my blood pressure gets high. Okay.
Good call.
Texas judge temporarily stops horrific dehydration and starvation of a 28-year-old. And this story did not go where I thought it was going.
It was stunning, and it's still happening. So there is a 28-year-old girl in the DFW area who, after a car crash 4 years ago, had a traumatic brain injury. And so she's still, like, pretty impaired, brain injury. But, alive, like, has been kind of in the same state, like, is at home, has home health care workers helping take care of her. So, like, pretty normal life, good life. Definitely a difficult life, living with a brain injury, but still a good life. And her parents, though, caught, like, a lot of attention. And it was this really, like, uncovered this very, like, shocking event that was about to take place. The parents were filming a Facebook Live video next to Margot, the 28-year-old, saying, all right, we are about to put you on hospice and to take away your food and water, and you will pass away, and then we're going to host a funeral for you and a celebration of life, and, like, that'll be it. And it's very stunning because her health isn't deteriorating. She's not, like, dying or anything. She's in this, like, normal state and everything, obviously, like, with a disability, but still, like, alive and functioning, and no reason that she should be put on hospice. But it was very, like, gruesome.
Why do we think this is a good idea?
Just to, like, spoiler alert here for you, she's still alive. They haven't taken away her food and water because, praise God, since they filmed that Facebook Live video, a lot of people were worried and, like, putting out, prayer requests and contacting the church, because the family had already contacted this Catholic church saying, like, oh, our daughter is dying, we want to have a funeral. So they scheduled the funeral for her with this church. And then everybody started contacting the church and say, like, y'all have to do something. So the church was like, oh, it turns out, like, she's not actively dying. So they talked to the parents, and then same thing, an attorney familiar with the case filed to have guardianship taken away from the parents, and so at least, like, temporarily. And so the judge sided with that attorney and said, like, all right, we need to, like, not take away her food and water and sort this out and figure out, are these parents, do they have the best interest for Margot here right now? And so right now Margot is safe. She has her food and water, and really interestingly too, the parents said they made this decision because several years ago, before the traumatic brain injury, before the car crash, Margot indicated, I guess when she was like 24, early 20s, that she wouldn't want to be kept alive by machines. And so the parents said, like, okay, well, this has been enough. Like, we'll take away her food and water. This is what she would have wanted. But Margot can communicate. Like, she has a disability, but her home health care workers, according to court documents, developed a system where she can, like, nod yes and no and answer questions, like yes and no questions. And so the home health care workers asked her, like, Margot, do you want to pass away? Like, do you want to go on hospice? Do you want your food and water to be taken away? And she was like, no, I don't want any of that. Like, I want to live. And so thank God, like, she was able to express her wishes. And so she is safe. The home health care workers like kind of had her best interests out there for her. And then the attorney who filed for temporary guardianship won that. So this was very like a really different case than what we usually see.
Yeah.
Because most of the time when there's like a devalue of brain injured patients or people with disabilities, we see it coming from like outside institutions. Like we see this like pretty much constantly at Texas Right to Life, where the hospital is trying to take away care, whether that's a ventilator. Up until 2015, the hospitals could take away food and water against your will.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And so normally that's what we would see is like a hospital saying, your life isn't worth living. I'm going to take this away from you. And then that's going to prompt your death. But here it's the parents making that decision. And the trickier thing is that's actually legal in Texas. Like your guardians, your medical power of attorney can decide that for you, or you could decide that for yourself if you're for your medical condition. But there was this discrepancy for sure that Margot indicated herself that she didn't want this. And it's just like very shocking and immoral because you can see this woman is not dying.
Yeah.
And this was like very much a quality of life kind of decision, it appears.
And I think that cases like this highlight a big misunderstanding of what pro-lifers are trying to fight for. So we are interested in protecting the dignity of life. And whenever there is cases like these with Margot or cases with pregnancies that either the mom's life is at risk or the baby has some sort of abnormality, something's not going right, we are not advocating that, she is kept alive by a machine or that the mother dies. We are advocating for the most dignified treatment. So starving Margot is not dignified. Pulling the baby limb from limb is not dignified. The intent is so important. Like, what is our intention? Is our intention for Margot to die? Is our intention for this newborn baby to die? Because then that's not pro-life and that's not respecting the dignity of life. But like I said, we are not pro, this family being miserable or, these mothers that are in hard pregnancies being, that their life being at stake. Like we're not for that. We're for the best solution to those problems, the most dignified, God-honoring solution.
Definitely. And it's like so stunning because people often think about brain injured patients as being vegetables. And what breaks my heart so much, and since I've heard about Margot's case, I've just been praying for an increase in the respect and dignity and love for brain injured patients because I think like we just see that maybe even more than, or even like more hostilely toward brain injured patients than we do toward preborn children, even among pro-life people who like are against abortion, but they'll call a brain injured person a vegetable. Like how insensitive and callous and just, not God honoring is that? Because that person is still created in the image and likeness of God and still bears the image of God. Especially whenever they're at their most vulnerable. And so whenever we're talking about these cases, people think like, oh, well, she's just being kept alive by machines. She wouldn't want to, like, we shouldn't keep anybody alive by machines. Like, just let them die. And I think in that situation, like, you're just really neglecting that they still bear the image of Christ. And, it's not like this extreme intervention, like she's, I hate the phrase being kept alive by machines, but that was used like in the family's rhetoric too. But she was on like food and water. Like this is basic care. Everybody needs food and water. This is really just like normal
eating
thing.
And drinking. These are things we all do every day.
Yeah. And so I hope, and I really want to give charity toward this family too, because I think we all want to believe that parents love their children and that these parents love Margot, I hope. And it kind of took shape in a way that I think hopefully is misinformed and is not like a matter of the heart necessarily. And hopefully they've learned of Margot's true wishes and know and like want to honor her life. I really don't know what motivates, parents to take away food and water from their child who's not actively dying. Also to put that on the internet.
Yeah.
Don't know. I really hope that it came from a place of goodwill. I don't.
Well, our
I really
culture tells us that it's compassion.
Yeah.
You know, it's compassion to honor the mother's wishes of what happens to her child because it's her body, and it's compassionate to relieve any discomfort or, you know, pain that we may feel in this life, even if to the extent of death. That's what we're told. That's compassionate. It's compassionate to take our food and water away.
Yeah. And then
If it progresses things.
Yeah. I have.
Which is so dark.
Well, if you devalue humans to just being the upper level of the evolutionary process, then it's no different than putting down a suffering horse, right?
Yeah.
This is the full letting it run its course. If humans are just kind of the top level of evolution, and that's not what we are. We are divinely created in the image of God. Now, some of us have physically, spiritually, emotionally been rolled in the mud a little more than others, but talk on it.
Yeah.
This is very much like a Terry Schiavo case,
Yeah,
and I know.
very.
Yes. I know the younger people are less familiar, but like the difference I think here that we saw in Terry Schiavo's case that we're kind of seeing here is like it's not an outside institution like the hospital saying we're going to take this away. It is the family saying we're going to take this away. And so I want to read actually a quote from Bobby Schindler, who is Terry Schiavo's brother, and runs the Terry Schiavo Life and Hope Network to help families facing denial of treatment. And whenever he was talking about watching his sister die from being starved and dehydrated to death, he said, "The process is cruel and barbaric and takes days and often weeks to play itself out, torturing not only the patient but all who love them as well. I watched my own sister anguish through 13 days without food or water, and there are no words that can properly describe this inhumanity. At the end, blood appeared in her eyes because her tissues were cracking from loss of moisture." And so like what you were saying, how it's like devaluing life, whether inside in the womb or outside of the womb. And people think like I'm doing the compassionate thing. And I'm thinking too of situations where the child, you know, might have a severe disability in the womb. And they're like, well, if we have an abortion, that's kind of like taking the baby out of my body. It's kind of like taking the baby off of life-sustaining treatment, life support. So it's like peaceful and gentle, and it's better this way. And people don't stop and ask questions of like, what does that actually entail? Like when you think about a baby being dismembered and torn limb from limb or poisoned, injected with poison in their heart, or vacuumed out of like what should be the safest place in the world. That's what that actually entails. Like I think try to fill in the blanks with like what we think will be like soft and happy and peaceful, because we want like happiness and peace and joy. Like that's good. That's what we're made for in heaven. But the reality is like whenever we do these like horrible life-ending interventions, like dismembering the child or taking away their food and water, it's not like this peaceful death that, you know, I think all of us would rather have a peaceful death than a violent death. It's actually like agonizing and just horrific to think of what the Bobby Schindler's family faced watching Terry Schiavo pass away, and that would be the same thing. But praise God, Margot is safe. She has her food and water. Like this, because this is in court now, there's going to be more developments happening. So make sure you stay watching TexasRightToLife.com, and we'll keep reporting on it. But pray for Margot. Pray for an increase in the value of human life, especially toward brain-injured patients. And for her family too. Hopefully they've had a change of heart and see that action was wrong, but that I hope that they love their daughter and want the best for her.
Yeah, and pray for that baby that was given a second chance at life. I get chills thinking of like, you know, where they'll be one day, and just knowing that they were saved at such the earliest point in their life. Pray for them.
Oh, well, friends, heavy topics, but obviously lots to discuss. We have to have conversations with our loved ones, our communities. We cannot shy away from our pro-life beliefs and just hide it under a bushel, right? It is time for us to do what we have been doing, and that time is today.
Is
every day. Is every day. Sorry, I'm gonna.
That was solid.
Hey, man.
You're no Kamala
I'm
Harris,
trying
but you're pretty close.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Have conversations with your friends and loved ones. Like, share, links below. Lots to read. Share this with your friends, and we will see you next time. Thanks for watching.